semi-free political prisoner of war. I thank all of you for being here. Thank you for inviting me. Thank you for welcoming me. Thank you, Ayanna. All of you. It's been a good trip out here. I've really enjoyed it. It's the second time I've been out here. I was out here about a month ago. And I experienced the same love, companionship, brother and sisterhood from you all. I really do appreciate it. The work that we're trying to do mainly is to bring them home, to our political prisoners and prisoners of war. I feel that's a responsibility of mine, and I really feel it's a responsibility of you all too. These brothers and sisters, they fought for us. Some of them died for us. You know, we've lost political prisoners in the joint. And I know from experience, me being here, sitting here with you, that it helps. It really, really helps. The support of the people is the only thing that really has made me survive 33 years in there and be here, able to sit here with you now. My wife, Dequi Kioni-Sadiki, was the head of one of the heads of my defense committee, and the work that they did that really made it possible for me to be here. And that's the type of support brothers and sisters that's left behind need and expect and deserve. We should really try to bring them home. I'm not going to say much because this was the one who can tell you the most about political prisoner work, because she's been doing it. I'm a recipient of the political prisoner work. I'm trying to learn it myself as I go along, trying to do what I can to help bring brothers and sisters back. I give you Kioni-Sadiki.
Okay, so I wanted to say that I am humbled and I am honored as well to be here, and that all of you came to share in this evening of community in the spirit of resistance and welcoming Sekou back to the outside. So it is definitely my honor and privilege to be here. This is my first time in Oakland, and I guess maybe the next time we'll be able to come and stay a little bit longer so I can participate in a lot of the other things that are going on. But I do appreciate the opportunity to speak about our PPs, because I tell people all the time, I will go anywhere and speak to anybody about the issue and the existence of political prisoners. I have some papers, right, that I've made up, and it's not comprehensive, but it's that Oakland is the birthplace of the Black Panther Party. We have 17 members of the Black Panther Party who remain in prison. Right? Starting from, as Sister Syria said, Chip Fitzgerald, right? So we have from 50 years, people, I mean, that's a lifetime. We have Jaleel Muntakim, who is from California, who was captured when he was 19 years old, and he's now in his 60s. Right? So we have people who are having all kinds of health issues, like when we're getting older on the outside. So imagine being 60 and 70 years old in a 6x9 prison cell, in solitary confinement, not having access to this plate of greens, not having access to a piece of cantaloupe, a strawberry, right? The most minute things that people just as a human right should have access to, our freedom fighters do not have access to, right? And that goes for all of the people in prison, but because our freedom fighters are in prison, especially because they were serving and defending the people. That's the only reason why they're in prison. Jaleel has been denied parole 7 times. It's on that sheet. Herman Bell 9 times. Robert Seth Hayes 12 times. We have people who are fighting tooth and nail. Sekou is here not just because we on the outside were fighting, but he was on the inside fighting. for his freedom, because nobody is not doing anything to get out of prison, right? So we have to teach about the importance. I'm glad you said, sister, that in your class, Chip called and that there's an issue on political prisoners, because part of the reason why we are in this slump, as what the brother said. What'd you say your name was, brother? I'm sorry. Gerald, right? Like we have to have a resurgence. Why? Because people have forgotten our political prisoners. There are people who organize against police brutality, which I do not call it police brutality. It is police terror. It is, and we have to call it that. It's terror and murder, right? They organize against housing issues, which is in crisis now. Everywhere we go where black and brown folks are, housing is an issue, access to affordable housing. Healthcare, education, or every single issue that people are organizing for or against today to demand as a human right. There are organizations that do not have political prisoners on their list of issues that they deal with. That's a serious contradiction, and that's a serious error, because we cannot teach our children about political prisoners, and we cannot have people won't be carrying on this work if I'm an organization that's well known in my community and they don't have political prisoners on their agenda, that every event that is there, that political prisoners are a part of the discussion, that somebody's talking about political prisoners, that there are pictures of political prisoners, that there are names of political prisoners, right? Because they're in prison fighting for every single thing that people are fighting for now. And it's a disrespect to those people on the inside to not be included and to be rendered invisible in the same way the United States government. Because the United States government renders them invisible. They say political prisoners don't exist in this mythology of a land of freedom and democracy. People believe that. But when we know better, then we have to live that practice, that political prisoners are part of everything we do. On our voicemail, you call our home, it says free all political prisoners. Everything we do. Sekou wears a button. I lost my button, but I wear, you see I have on his shirt, which you can, I have a few shirts. We have, and I'll get into that, a CD, because we had to fundraise, right? So we were here for the National Lawyers Guild conference, because one of the things that they're doing, they passed a resolution so that our political prisoners, the long-term political prisoners who've been in prison for 30 and 40 years, who come from poor and working class black families who don't have access to money, right? So when they go before parole board, we had to raise money for Sekou's defense committee, and it cost thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars. Right? So we had to go out and we had to have events. We did these t-shirts. We did the CD campaign, the Freedom Ain't Free CD campaign. But you have people who don't donate, right? You have people who don't speak their name. We need people to speak to their elected officials. Speak to your imams. Speak to your religious leaders. Speak to the students. Speak to your neighbors. Speak to your family. You speak to everybody that you can about political prisoners, so that not only do we raise funds, but in the raising of consciousness, we will raise funds. I told people at the conference, I was at an event, we were at a meeting with one of the former white anti-imperialist political prisoners, and she said something that stuck with me that night, and it continues to stick with me. And this is a problem for our black and new African political prisoners. She said that never would any of them go before a parole board, need anything, and the white community didn't come to their defense, didn't raise money for them. That's not the same for our black and new African political prisoners. And it's not right. It's not right. Because not only did people like Sekou sacrifice his life, and he did that voluntarily. Right. But his family didn't volunteer to be in the black freedom struggle. His children, who were children when he went in, are now adults with children that were older than they were when their father went in. They didn't volunteer for the black freedom struggle. So it's not just about him him doing almost 34 years, it's about all the things that happened in that 34 years. His parents passed, his siblings passed. As you mentioned, his son was murdered. There were weddings, there were college graduations, high school graduations. There were all kinds of things that he wasn't able to be a part of. And that's just him. Yeah. Multiply that by all the brothers that are on that sheet. So we say in New York, we have a thing where we say 800 years and counting of captivity. Because all those brothers, just 20 of them.
And we're not mentioning the move 9, so there's even more among the moves.
It's a lot more. But when I did this because I speak, and this is not, I don't individualize it, but I'm also, and I don't make apologies for it, and I don't say anybody is not important. There are people, Sekou had a defense committee, but there are people who don't have a defense committee. Veronza Bowers doesn't have a defense committee. Robert Seth Hayes doesn't have a defense committee. There are people, Imam Jamil Al-Amin, he's as sick, if not worse than Mumia. Robert Seth Hayes, he has diabetes and hep C. They have just refused to control his diabetes. So one day, his insulin sugar is way up in the 700s, the next day it's down in the 30s. So I say that to say that we can't become celebrity about our political prisoners. Because I talk about all of our political prisoners. Even when I was out there doing the work for this man that I love, I talked about everybody. Because he is not by himself. He is a part of a movement. And so when we say about political prisoners, it's not just about one political prisoner. It's a systemic theology of criminalizing black resistance. I don't care if Sekou was quote unquote innocent or guilty of whatever they convicted him of. We have a right to resist. And we got to teach that. We got to teach people when they say, oh, but he's innocent, oh, but he's accused or he's found guilty of killing a police officer. It don't matter. We are oppressed people, and we have a right to resist. And this land of rape and murders and people who go around stealing people's resources do not have a right to tell oppressed people how they're supposed to fight. And so we have to teach people that that's irrelevant. Harriet Tubman knew that it was freedom or death. All those enslaved African women who poisoned slave owners, who put arsenic in the food, when they burned the crops, when they killed the slave masters, when they let the animals go, when they fought on those slave ships, we don't talk about them being, oh, well, they was guilty of such and such. So we don't need to wait until our freedom fighters are dead to glorify them and big up their name. We must do that now. And we have to confront and challenge people when they say, oh, well, whatever excuses people give. Oh, I'm not that interested in political prisoners. Well, you are a beneficiary.
That's right. That's right.
This is part of the Black freedom struggle. What do we tell our children when we are not? When we get ready to go to the other side, what do we tell the Creator when we are met by what did you do to try to make the world a little bit better? What did we do for all of those people to carry on the struggle of the people who came before us, whose shoulders we stand on? I know my life is I'm still an oppressed black woman, African woman, but I know my life is a whole lot different. And none of those enslaved women, none of those black women who came before me lived the kind of life that I'm able to live, and I'm able to live the life that I'm able to live because of their work. And so we got to do that work. And we got to do that work not on a special occasion, but we got to make that a part of our lives, because our political prisoners, they don't get 365 days a year, 24 hours a day. They are treated as political prisoners. They don't get a vacation. They don't get retirement. They don't get a break from the oppression of prison life. And they don't get a break from the punishment of daring to struggle. Never do they get a break. And so we gotta make sure that their names, that their voices, that their stories, that their lives and the lives of their families are included in this work. Because otherwise we have failed, and part of why we are where we are is because we have failed. People have done great work, absolutely, and people have worked hard. Some people have worked hard, but too many of us have not. So our Black and New African political prisoners should never not have what they need. People say, who'd have to call people for glasses, sneakers, a food package. We put money on the phone so people can call, send money on a commissary so that people have, because they got to buy everything. When Sekou was in prison, he had to buy food from those prison vendors. And it costs, and it's not discounted because they're in prison. It costs the same thing. Clothes, sheets. I mean, the prison supplies you with basic stuff, but you gotta buy your toothpaste. You gotta buy all that stuff. So everybody may not support everybody in the same way, but I always say this, everybody can do something. And if we all do something, then it's working for the liberation. Because we're speaking their name. And we're saying your life, like we say Black resistance matter, Black power matters. People say Black lives matter. Well, if Black lives matter, then don't forget about those Black lives that sacrificed their lives and their families. And they've been in prison for 40 and 50 years. So that's the work. So